I'll never forget the first time I met John Lombardo. I was at a conference called SEMA, Corporate Event Marketing Association, and he had been brought in. He works for Song Division. He had been brought in to do a networking activity, and we had a choice of activities to do, but this one was about songwriting. So I went to the activity, and immediately he had me on stage holding a guitar and helping him co-write a song that we ended up performing the next day with a full band. And I was up there on stage playing guitar and singing, and I felt like a rock star. Now you have to know, I've been playing music for most of my life, and I've been on stage playing guitar many times as a worship pastor. I've written hundreds of songs. Most of them are not worth playing for anyone besides myself, but I have written hundreds of songs. But it was still a very unique experience, and it makes me remember that event with fondness and clarity. And the way that we help people remember the events that we create will affect their likelihood of coming back again, the likelihood that they're going to tell other people about the event. I remember in the early years of social media marketing world, we would hear on podcasts people talking about, that's the conference where my life changed. And that's the conference where this happened. I made this deal. I formed this mastermind. That's the place where all these things happened. And it starts with the memories that they create. They would go to these unique places like going on a battleship and going to parties, or going on a cruise out in the harbor, or singing karaoke late into the night, or going to a club after hours, or getting up early in the morning and going on a walk. And those things created memories, as well as the sessions and the chance to meet someone that they've looked up to as a hero. All these things create memories, and it's those memories is what they feel. It's memories are connected very much to our emotions. And the more that we can create emotional experiences, you know, the statement that says people don't remember what you said or what you did, but they remember how you make them feel. And thank you that he said that I'm your hero. But we become heroes by the way we make people feel, by the things we do for them and the way we make them feel. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how we do that. And there's some intentional things that we can do to create memories. One is to actually be intentional about the things that you're going to do. Make sure that they're maybe unexpected or unusual, that you're tapping into the senses. Those are things that help memories stand out. So if you do something that people aren't expecting, you know, like Jesse Cole, when he shows up to a conference like ours wearing a yellow tuxedo, you're going to remember him because there's nobody else dressed like him. If you have a song performed at your event that has been uniquely performed or written for that event, and people like hear their voices in it, like that song that was created where we actually got to contribute, that creates a memory. That is unusual. That is unexpected. So I think that's one of the things that you do. But another is tapping into the five senses. The more senses that you tap into, the more memorable something becomes, and that is really important. Yeah, and then there's that crazy airport guy. Like Chad, when he picks up somebody at an airport dressed as Dorothy or dressed as a fireman and creates a memory. People talk about it. People talk about those things, and it becomes a memory, and they'll keep talking about it. But it's not just about that. So we can do things that people are going to remember, but I think we have to help them choose what they're going to remember, especially as it relates to important insights. I'll never forget going to I think it's the same year, but it might have been a different one. But one of those SEMA conferences where the MC at the end put on a session that was talking about neuroscience and memory. And that was like the topic. It was a very sophisticated sounding topic, but ultimately what it became was a debrief session. And he gave us some scientific tidbits on the power of memory and neuroscience and that sort of thing. But what was more powerful was the exercises that he took us through to help us identify the three key takeaways that we had from that 3-day event. And he had us write them down. He had us put them on a timeline so that we would anchor it and remember, oh, that happened on Tuesday at 9:30 during this session. And he was able to help us see that a lot of us had insights at that Tuesday 9:30 session. So there's something powerful must have happened there. Then he had us draw pictures of each one of those stories, show it to somebody else, and have them tell us back what they see the story to be. And then we could clarify it. And that gave us practice clarifying what's the important steps in the story. And then finally, we made an appointment with somebody where we told them the three things that we were going to do. And in 3 weeks, we said we would follow up and find out. Those things created stories for me that helped me remember that event probably better than any other event I've ever been to. And I think when we do those things and helping people remember, helping people make a plan on how to remember, then we are going to reinforce the things that happened that were important. We're benefiting their lives, which is the most important thing. We want to help encourage the transformation, but it's also going to have a secondary effect where they're going to talk about the event the way that I was mentioning before, and people are going to be like curious about, I want to go to that. I was talking to someone this week who works for 3M, and they're designing something for our event this year that's going to be really cool. And she started looking into our event and said, I am really curious about your event. I was excited about the project that we're doing, but now that I see your event, I'm really fascinated by it. Who knows? She may or may not come. But when you do things that are intriguing, that are memorable, that stand out, people are going to come back and people are going to talk about it. That's really the power here. So I'll close with another story. It was probably in about 98 or 99 was the first time I heard this guy named Ken Miedema. I'd heard of him before. He's a Christian composer. He writes a lot of music for choirs and other things, but I'd never seen him in concert. So I did not know that he's blind, but he's an amazing musician. So I went to this concert and he did something I've never seen done in a live concert. He had somebody in the audience stand up, tell a story, and then he turned around and he wrote a song right there in the moment for that person about that story. And it was a really good song. It wasn't just like a throwaway. It was like, with a little bit of work, he could record it. But he didn't do it just once. He actually did it 3 times during the concert, and I was blown away. So I went up to him afterwards and said, how do you do that? And one of the things he told me stood out. He said, I read poetry constantly because I want to get the language of poetry in my brain. And then he's obviously playing music all the time. So those two things together allowed him to experience that and create that experience for all of us. You can imagine the people that told the story, how blessed they were to have a song given back to them to help them experience and remember that story in a whole different way. But all of us got to participate in it. So if we can create memorable moments within our events that people are going to talk about, people are going to feel, and people will share, then it will be such a powerful thing. So that's some thoughts today on Veterans Day as we think about remembering. I hope it's been helpful to you. If you've got any thoughts about it, drop them in the comments. Love to talk with you about it throughout the next few days.